Welcome to another unboxing video from theplayersaid.com. My name is Grant. Today I'm unboxing, just received this, a copy of Dominant Species Marine from GMT Games. This game, if you can't see here, is designed by Chad Jensen. And if for those of you that know, Chad Jensen is a fabulous designer. He designed the predecessor to this game called simply Dominant Species. But more so than that, really Chad, I think, has affected the wargaming world in large ways. And if you know, he passed away a little over a year ago, the end of 2019, from cancer. And, my condolences go out to Kai and his family. It's hard, I'm getting a little emotional, but don't know Chad, never spoken to Chad. But, it's interesting when you play these games and you read the rules and you get a feel for the type of designer that makes the game, you start to feel like you know them. I think many of you understand that experience because you've continually played those games from those designers over and over again. Combat Commander, one of my all-time favorite games. One of Chad's probably most commercially successful. There's been multiple large box expansions as well as battle packs. And it's still a living series. I know that GMT is working with Kai to hopefully release some other packs or something. But I digress. What I'm trying to tell you is that Chad Jensen, really fabulous designer. I've played several of his games. One that I have not played is Fighting Formations. We have it. We just have not played it. We need to do that. I don't know what's taken us so long, but I love Dominant Species. Looking forward to this Dominant Species Marine. Love Combat Commander. He's just designed a lot of very interesting games. There's some other ones that I haven't played. Urban Sprawl, I think, is one. And so anyway, to this game, Dominant Species Marine is kind of a follow-up to Dominant Species. This is a Euro game, not a war game. It is going to use pawns, pawns, and then hexagonal tiles that represent land or sea. In this one, it's mostly sea. And then each player is going to have a creature type. And you're going to control that creature type, searching to become the dominant species on the planet. You're going to have to adapt to different food types and expand out, move out, use your special ability to take advantage of opportunities, all in an attempt to gain the most victory points by the end of the game. Very comparable to Dominant Species. In Dominant Species, you were kind of waiting for the Ice Age to destroy your species. There were, Ice Age tiles coming up, and they kind of destroyed habitat, and once you reached a certain point, the game would end. In this one, that end game concept is an asteroid streaming its way to Earth. So this is more the time of the dinosaurs, but once again, it's focused mostly in the ocean. Species that live and thrive in the ocean and the water itself. So, big box. You can see how thick that is. I'm actually surprised that I can hold it up with one hand. My guess is it weighs close to 5 pounds. I haven't weighed that. Here you can see the back of the box, the top. There is the quote-unquote board. The board really is nothing more than a holding place for those hexagonal tiles, which these are the hex tiles. These are the open water spaces that you're going to place those into. And then over here are the different actions that you're going to select with your species. You have pawns. You're going to select those, trying to be dominant in these different spheres so that you ultimately, in the end, have the most dominance every round, and you're going to draw special cards. Those cards give you special abilities. I think there's also cards, even in this one, that do certain disasters. But each species is going to fight over food type. Here's one referring to the sun, and I've got to look at the tokens a little bit more, but you're adapted to eat a certain food type, and you've got to live and survive in those food types. Here you can see them kind of spread out around this tile. We'll talk about that more in a minute. The game is 2 to 4 players, recommended for 14 plus. Games take 1 to 3 hours. We've played Dominant Species probably, 5, 6, 7 times. Love it. Our games typically last 2 to 3 hours with 4 to 5, 4 players. Complexity is a 4, and solitaire is unfortunately low at 2. Not a solitaire game. In fact, it's best with 4 players. You can play it with 2, but to me it's best with 4 players. So without further ado, let's go ahead and open up the box. These huge 3-inch boxes, man, that's tight too. And I swear I've opened this. These 3-inch boxes really are made to be packed to the total top, the gills of the game. Here at the very top, we have a sheet of stickers. These are going to go on the action pawns to represent your species. I think these 4 on the left are the different species. Those couple on the right, those are food sources. And then these are spares down there. So there's the stickers. The first thing we see is the 4 different species player boards. Here you have 1, 2, 3, 4 in different colors. The 4 species are reptiles, fishes, crustaceans, and cephalopods. So cephalopods are creatures like this, snail, nautilus type things. Reptiles, obviously you've got amphibian type, lizard type creatures that have adapted to the oceans. Fishes, you've got big armored fish there, and then crustaceans, obviously crabs and that kind of thing. So these player boards, if you look at them very closely, for instance, this is telling you here that, the fishes, here's their food sources. This looks like invertebrates or something, and then this is weeds or plants. Then here you've got another one, worms and plants again. Reptiles, you've got sun, and then don't know what that is. And then cephalopods, you've got snails, and then that thing again that looks to me like coral or something that grows. But that'll tell you what you need to live at first, and then as you adapt, you're going to add different ones that you can survive in so that you can move into others' territories that have set them up for their species, and you can adapt and live there. That's a big part of the game because ultimately this is an area control, area majority style game where you're trying to have the most number of species on a certain tile to score the most amount of victory points. Here you've got kind of the different actions you can take, and those are listed on the board. Let's flip these over because I was looking. Okay, I see what this is. This is an option where you can randomize what food sources you have. So you literally at the beginning of the game, you can draw some out of the bag and say, rather than normally I would survive on invertebrates and seaweed, I'm now going to survive on ocean, or I'm sun or invertebrates or whatever might come up. So that's the player boards. There are 4 of those, 4 different players. Here's the rule book, very nice rule book. Let's see how many pages that rule book is. It clocks in at 24 pages, and you can see fairly big text. It's pretty dense though, but there's a lot of great kind of examples of the different actions. There's a regression action, an adaptation action, wanderlust, etc. So I'm going to say if you've played Dominant Species, you're going to most likely be familiar with this game. I think there's some minor changes. But yeah, the rule book, very well laid out, lots of components, and very well done. So yeah, rule book, good, going to help you learn the game. There is one sheet of playing counters with, you can see here are and there's a bunch of those. Here are all of those hexagonal land formation tiles that I talked about. 1, 2, 3, there are 6 of those. And then you can see interspersed, there are some of these different tiles that you're going to use. So overall, there are 7 sheets of counters, but once again, those hexagonal ones are pretty large. Here are there's different food sources. The 4 on the left, we kind of really talked about, and then there's the 2 on the right that I don't think we talked a whole lot about. But anyway, you've got 6 different types of food that you need to live on. And here those are very, very nicely presented. Here, we'll take one look at these hexagon. So here's Coral Sea, or Coral Reef, sorry. Then on the back, it's blank, has Wanderlust on it, because you're going to randomly draw these when you take an action each turn. So you're not going to know what is coming up, which is a big key of the game. And then you'll notice up at the top, you have different numbers, 6, 3, and 2. So what that means is 3 players that have their species on this tile will ultimately score points. If there are 4 players there, somebody's going to be out of luck. And that comes to be the central focus of the game. You're competing over trying to get these points. I've always found it's very important to have something from every tile. Don't invest or go into one of these tiles that you really have no shot at getting into any of these victory points. But if you have the most species there, you're going to get 6 points. Second most is 3. Third most is 2. And like most games, let's say there are 2 players tied for first and second, or tied for first. I think you add the 2 together, so that'd be 9, and then you divide it in half. But yeah, so that's one of the keys. So that's one of those. Now here's like a hydrothermal vent, which is kind of cool. It's smaller, you'll notice, and I'm not exactly sure. I think those may either come up because of events or something else might happen. One other thing I wanted to show you here. Let me pop out this ocean reef. Let me pop out the land, because those are a couple of the different kinds where you're going to score points. So let's once again remember I showed you this coral reef one. So that's pretty abundant. There's a lot of food sources. There's a lot of life-giving abilities there. Now let's compare that to the open ocean. So here's an open ocean tile. You notice that the victory points are much lower. These are not what you want to go after. They're nice to have, don't get me wrong, if you can somehow get them with 2 or 3 species cubes. But you're not going to win the game focusing just on open ocean. They're just not as fertile as, say, a coral reef, or I'll show you this one. This is a land tile. So this is going to represent the coast, an island, something. And you can see the numbers there are 8, 4, 2, and 1 as compared to 6, 3, and 2. So all 4 players can score here. So these might be ones you want to make sure you're on at all times. You're always on at least a land. Once again, that's a strategy, trying to score some victory points. So there are a bunch of those tiles. Let me see if they're any different. We've seen land. So here's a seagrass meadow. Here's a sea mount. A sand plain. I think that's all and a kelp forest. I think those are all the different ones, yeah. So I didn't show you these. I'll go ahead and show you these. So this is seagrass meadow, seamount, sand plain, and kelp forest. So you can see some of those have different values as well, and they have multiple. Some have 2, some have 3 scores available, so 3 players can score. So there's 7 or 8 different terrain tiles, and that's a big part of that game. You're going to want to focus on trying to, do the Wanderlust action, because that's what's going to get you to spread out. And I think in the other game it was called, then you do speciate. You move into those territories. So now we're going to go ahead and full mounted map board, just like Dominant Species was. And I think the map board is pretty much the same. They may have added a couple of different actions just to represent the differences in this game versus the others. So unfortunately, let me go ahead and try to lay that flat. But it looks like a lot of blue, and there is a lot of blue there because once again, this is occurring in the ocean. You can see that's a big board. These are, looks like they're starting tiles, so that's always the way it's going to be, potentially. And then you're trying to expand out and get into these new areas. Or maybe not. Maybe you cover those up with tiles. I'm not sure. Haven't heard the rules for this one. Dominant species was a little different. So yeah, those are where you're going to play the game, meaning you're going to put your tiles, your land tiles, when you do Wanderlust there, and you're going to be able to move into that kelp grass meadow. It looks like the hydrothermal vents, remember those are going to go up there, or maybe that's where you draw them from. They're going to appear on different lands. That may act like the Ice Age in the previous game, where it kind of destroyed a habitat. So maybe these being placed here will now destroy that, and people will have to move away from that. I need to look at the rules. Here on the right, I'm going to move over there a little bit. You can see all the different actions. We talked about that on the player aid or the player boards. That's where you're going to put your, you have these action pawns. You have a certain amount of these based on the number of players in the game. They're just these wooden, very nice wooden, but in turn order based on the food chain, which is over here on the left of the board. You've got different spaces, and you're going to say, oh, I want to make sure and evolve this round. So you put that there, and everybody else is going to place, and then you're like, oh, I want to make sure to Wanderlust, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's how you use that. And then you're going to retrieve your action pawns at the end of the round and be able to start over. There's a lot of different options there, though. I don't remember dominant species having quite that many. Maybe they did. Here's where those Wanderlust tiles go. That's these land formations. You're going to shuffle them up, and you're going to place them there and draw from there. You'll notice the scoring track is all through the outside of the board. Let's go over here. Here is the different type of Wanderlust tiles and terrain. Here's where those cards are going to come out, so you know what cards are out. Up here is the food chain. That is, in essence, the turn order. And there is actually an action, I think, that can allow you to move up in turn order. Turn order becomes important because you don't want to be choosing last all the time. So you're going to want to make sure to try to move up on that. I found that you want to kind of at least be second or third. You don't want to be fourth or last. Because then you're being dictated to. You're not able to dictate. So that's a look at the board. Very well done. Very colorful. I'm excited to play this. We have really enjoyed Dominant Species. So as far as the wood goes, I've already shown you these action pawns. There's a bunch of them. So I won't necessarily show those to you again. Here are your different species cubes. Let me see if the different colors. Yeah, I'm not really sure what the colors are now, and I don't want to be wrong. But, you've got purple, light blue, brown, and orange. And remember, there's 4 species. The reptiles, cephalopods, fishes, and crustaceans. Maybe the crustaceans are the orange. The fishes are blue. Purple might be the cephalopods. And then brown might be, who knows? I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. But you can see there's a bunch of those. And you're going to use those in the game. The game comes with a couple of drawbacks, because things like the food sources are going to be marked in there. And different things. I think you can also place the Wanderlust tiles in there if you really want. The game does use cards. They are not necessarily a major focus of the game, but they are important to the game and help you to be more victorious, because 1, they give you abilities, and 2, they provide you extra opportunities or victory points. Here's an asteroid. This is the thing that actually, I think, ends the game. Or no, it doesn't. It says select a tile, eliminate all but 1 species there, then eliminate 1 species on each adjacent tile. So the person that either uncovers this or plays this is able to do that. The game ends at the next reseed event. So it's like the asteroid has come in, destroyed everything around it, and then everybody's got, I think, one more turn to kind of finish the game. But yeah, these are the different cards. They all have different abilities and focuses. Very well done art. I remember Dominant Species was the same, but there's a lot of different variety there. And the cards are very cool. Like I said, they don't necessarily make the game, but they do assist it. Great art on the back, by the way. And there are two types of cards. One is the evolution cards. Those are the ones with those blue backs. And then the other ones are the trait cards. So there are two different cards, or two different types. And then here's a kind of a little player aid, just helping you. Oh, this is a survival card. So give to the player with the most species occupying vent tiles. Okay, so I messed up with the vent tiles. That's actually a way to score victory points and to get this thing called survival. So anyway, there's that card. So there's two different types of main cards, and then you've got your special action card there. But that's it. That's a look at Dominant Species Marine, a great game. And I say that not having played it, but knowing that Dominant Species is one of my favorite games. I think it's in my top 5 all-time games. It's somewhat considered to be a classic. I think everyone that has played it, who has played it, simply loves it. I know it's a long game, takes a lot of effort, but it is well worth it, I have found. We've enjoyed the heck out of Dominant Species and really look forward to playing Dominant Species Marine. So there you go, another quality production from GMT Games. Beautiful game, well produced, great art, great colors, great components. The only thing I think I would say, these are a little flimsy. Maybe they should have been a little sturdier, but they'll hold up. It's not like you're doing a whole lot with that. You're just placing it down in front of you and marking it. But great game. Really look forward to playing this. In fact, I kind of want to get our old group together, Tim and, well, Matt's moved now, but Tim and Josh and Alexander and myself, this would be a perfect 4-player game. So there you have it. Dominant Species Marine from GMT Games, designed by the late Chad Jensen. Fantastic designer. This is kind of his swan song, and I really look forward to playing that. So thanks for watching along. I've been Grant for the Player's Aid.